today, British Columbia is a world leader in forest management. Drawing from the rich heritage of its past to the leading-edge technology and comprehensive resource planning of today, British Columbia has gained international recognition for its excellence in forest management. From the subalpine region of the Canadian Rockies, extending along the length of the Pacific coast, to the Great Boreal Forest of the north, British Columbia's forests are a global treasure. The people of British Columbia are entrusted with the conservation of these forests, an area of exceptional beauty that encompasses 149 million acres. British Columbians take to heart their responsibility to preserve their forests. This commitment is reflected in our dedication to protect the ecological diversity of the land through consultation, careful planning, and innovative technology. To maintain the biological diversity and the beauty of the forests, British Columbians require that forest companies meet rigorous standards of practice that adhere to the principles of sustainable forestry, assuring the protection of our forest legacy. In our long history of timber harvesting, we have come to know our forests, learning over the past century to protect the diversity of our land in balance with our forest economy. British Columbia is unique among the world's leading forest producers because 95% of the land base is publicly owned. Managing this public trust involves consultation, science, and the regeneration of the forest. Before harvesting begins, a forest company is required to plan its operations to maintain the complex ecosystems that depend on the forests and the forest values that may be affected by harvesting. In consultation with local communities, forest companies must adhere to environmental principles that protect fish, wildlife, biological diversity, and our cultural values. Our government, communities, First Nations, and forest companies are working together to develop land use plans that reflect local objectives and support conservation in the working forests, striving to maintain biological and economic balance within our beautiful environment.
The Huu-ay First Nation, being a participant in the forest industry, first of all, we're involved in the forest management and have management say. Secondly, we've created economic circumstances where different companies, like the silviculture company, shade company, so we're creating employment. 5 to 7 years ago, we had as high as 80% unemployment, and I believe we're 10 or below 10% now. Hishuaktsawak, what it means to First Nations is that everything is connected. If you over extract one resource, it's going to impact others. There's a cycle for salmon, there's a cycle for everything. The mosquito, the larvae, the frogs, everything. So what we bring into forest industry in terms of Hishuaktsawak is we consider all of the above. Just being a part of the industry, we're involved in planning, we're involved in reforestation and all aspects of forestry.
Through community consultation, British Columbia has protected more than 12% of its total land base, more than any other province in Canada, meeting and surpassing United Nations goals. In the last decade, British Columbia has doubled the amount of protected forest land. In addition, it has allocated another 14% of the province's land base to special management, meaning that other important values take precedence over development, such as critical habitat for the spotted owl and the woodland caribou. The British Columbia forest sector is embracing a culture of continual improvement in its practices and relationships. A unique pilot project is involving the public like never before and utilizing the latest science to produce the best management results.
I think what makes the Stillwater Pilot Project most unique is it really gives a real opportunity for the community to identify what their values are. Over the course of the project, we've involved local community, First Nations, government agencies, the Association of BC Professional Foresters, non-government organizations, environmental groups. They get to really focus in on the things that are important to them on a constant, continuous basis. We've zoned the Stillwater area into 4 different types of zones. A timber zone where the focus is on timber production, an old growth zone where the focus is on protecting and preserving old growth, a habitat zone focused on meeting the needs of those animals that either don't have their needs met in an old growth environment or a second growth environment, and the forest zone being a recreation tourism zone. Speaking as a forester who's been practicing forestry for 25 years, the forests of BC are not managed by corporations, they're managed by professional foresters who live in BC.
Annually, 1/3 of 1% of our forests is harvested, and any harvesting on these lands is guided by a comprehensive set of rules under the Forest and Range Practices Act. This legislation upholds our high environmental standards while encouraging accountability, efficiency, and innovation. The Forest and Range Practices Act requires that companies provide in-depth forest stewardship plans using globally accepted best practices. While it is the provincial chief forester who determines harvest levels based on a comprehensive review, it is the Forest and Range Practices Act that determines how those trees will be cut and regenerated. In the last decade alone, more than 2.5 billion trees have been planted. The law requires that harvested areas be replanted with trees suitable to the area in order to preserve the unique ecological characteristics of the region. The Forest and Range Practices Act is backed by one of the toughest compliance and enforcement regimes in the world, and the Forest Practices Board, which independently verifies that these laws are upheld and reports its findings directly to the public, further acts as watchdog for sound forest practices. Many forest companies seek to certify their forest operations through independent third-party audits and as a result often exceed government requirements. Our comprehensive laws, enforcement regime, and thorough planning continue to set standards of conduct in forest practices that make British Columbia a world leader in the preservation of Earth's biological diversity.
As a forest company will identify a stand of trees and they'll put forward a plan. That plan must be vetted by the public for their input and to ensure that the values that people have in the forests of British Columbia are incorporated into those plans. Recreation, water quality, wildlife, and of course the timber resource. I think that we're accountable to the public in British Columbia, and a cornerstone of certification is to work closely with your communities to ensure that their values are recognized.
The protection of ecological values while balancing stable economic benefit for our communities is the foundation of sustainable forest management. British Columbians recognize that our future depends on the preservation of our forests. The heritage of our children hinges on our dedication to sustainable forestry. The British Columbia government is accountable to the people of this extraordinary province and to the rest of the world for our forests. It's a responsibility that British Columbians welcome and take pride in. Our commitment to forest planning and innovative forest management strategies guarantees the permanence of our magnificent forest legacy.